hey, is this a compromise? Is that what this is about? Was that vote a compromise, or is this plan a compromise?
I think what the board was looking at, after hearing the public comment, they wanted to give students who are currently in the choice program a priority through an intra-district transfer program. So otherwise, we would just take anyone who wanted to transfer and provide their own transportation, and we would just take those and put them in a lottery and pull out names, and those would be the kids who would get to go there. By giving these students a priority, we will fill those numbers first with students who are currently in the choice program, and then fill after that with a lottery program. But that would come through administrative guidelines for an intra-district transfer.
So
Was
if I,
this a unanimous vote by the district?
It was a unanimous vote by the board this evening.
so if I'm a kid and I go to Jeremiah Gray, but I don't live on that side of town, do I get to stay at Jeremiah Gray?
If you fill out a intra-district transfer application, which means you are a student in good standing and your parents are going to provide transportation for you, you will be considered first for the areas of grade level that we have available for students to move in. So we'll look at the grade level, we'll look at the number of students who are within the boundary, and then we'll announce the number of students who might be able to transfer into that school.
Okay, so who gets priority? The kids that live in that boundary?
First, the kids in the boundary are going to be the first students there.
Okay.
And then every year we look at the number of sections by grade level, and we try to target a number around 23 to 25 students per section. And so let's say we have 18. We'll have at least 7 open positions there for transfers to come in. And we would fill them first with our current choice students.
Okay, so kids that are currently there.
Yes.
But is there a chance that I fill out my application, my parents are willing to drive me, I'm a student in good standing, but I don't get to stay at Jeremiah Gray, I gotta go somewhere else?
That is correct. You would be within your homeschool boundary, or if you chose to fill an application out for another school, you would have that ability as well.
Okay, and is it a lottery then? You like what? Like there's only maybe 4 slots for 4th graders, and 10 4th graders fill out
Yeah.
the transfer. You do a lottery then?
Yeah, but for this first year, we would first take those kids who are currently in the choice program. So let's say, using your scenario, there's no availability for me to stay at Jeremiah Gray, but I would like to go to another district or another school outside my boundary. We would still give that student the priority.
To go outside my boundary.
Yes.
Can you go through, Mr. Mapes, how the priorities are working? I think there were like 4 that you had laid out. It's like, okay, first are the ones in the boundaries. Can you go through that
Sure.
again?
So first we'll have kids who live within the boundary, and they'll make up that grade level. And then we will look at how many opportunities we have for students to fill in the sections. Like I said, if we're looking at class sizes at 23 to 25, and there's only 17 students per section, and we have 4, then we're going to have 32 available students to come in. First kids are going to be the kids who are currently in the choice program. So if you're currently going to Jeremiah Gray or Rosa Parks or another school that you've choiced into, you take those slots up first. And then let's say that out of those 32, we're down to 10. Then people who fill out applications who haven't been a part of the choice program, they'll go in there unless there's more than 10, and then it'll be a lottery.
Where do the siblings fit in?
So we will give priority to the siblings as well. So we're really going to try to put these 4th grade kids back into those buildings if their parents want to transport them, so they can finish up their elementary career there. So if you're a current 4th grader and you have a brother or sister who's a 2nd grader, and we have availability for you to go there, we'll put you there.
Where can some community members go to find out these resources about everything that happened here tonight? Because it seemed like some of them were in the dark.
We'll post all of this on the website. We will also have communication that'll go out through Parent Square and letters to our families at a future date. We have a lot of work to do now. The first step that had to be made was a decision on whether or not we were going to end school choice and establish boundaries. And that was our recommendation that the board approved. We now have to make certain to put out information to all the parents to let them know where they will be attending for their 2023-24 school year, because this will not start until July.
When do you start taking the application?
So the applications probably will not begin until February. We will have to bring administrative guidelines to our boards that outlines all these priorities and the application process. The board will approve that, and then we can look at the sections that we'll have, the opportunities for people to fill out an application, and the number of vacancies we have to fill.
Does the fact remain though some kids are probably going to have to not be in their same school?
Well, yes, I think we'll have some kids who won't be able to be in their same school because they can't provide transportation. And we'll have some kids who may not be able to stay in their same school because they don't get selected because of capacity.
But you still feel like, I mean, was it the board's feeling that this was, would you describe it as a compromise? This was kind of a meet them halfway, a quarter of a way, some kind of
I
thing?
think it is, just because we wouldn't have to give them any priority. We could just say we're taking applications and it'll be a lottery selection. So by giving those students a priority, I think that's the compromise. We need to also circle back around to why are we looking at this? We have to fix our transportation problem. And we truly feel that this will fix our transportation problem, as we'll get, in the weeds a little later with the routes, but we think we'll get somewhere around 30 routes back. And that will allow us to get kids home on time, which we currently cannot do.
How many routes will you be cutting? Still 16? I know that when the initial plan was that we're going to cut 16 routes, and
If we only put 54 kids on a bus, we think we're going to save 16 routes. If we're going to be able to put more than 54 students on a bus, because they're not going to have to travel as far with the boundaries. So we think realistically we're going to be closer to 30 routes saved, which means we'll actually be able to get our kids to and from school on time, and we won't have to run go-backs.
are we still trying to hire more drivers? though?
We're still trying to hire drivers. Every day since I've been here, this is my 7th year, we constantly are trying to find drivers.
How many you need?
We currently have 42 positions we could fill in transportation. That includes our sub drivers as well. We try to keep a staff of around 15% of sub drivers so we can make certain that we constantly can fill absences and everything else that we deal with each day.
And Mr. Mapes, are you concerned with if you have to put more kids on the buses because there'll be more kids riding, within the boundaries? Have you guys made plans as far as what you're going to do with child behavior? I know that was a concern before.
That's always a concern. That's been a concern since we put kids on buses. I mean, the students' behavior and the help from parents as well as our drivers and administration to make students understand riding a bus is a privilege. It's not a right. And if you can't have appropriate behavior, then your parents are going to have to figure out how to get you to school. I mean, we've dealt with that for years, and it's not a new issue, but not being on the bus for 50 minutes or not sitting at a school waiting to get on a bus for 50 minutes should take care of a lot of behavior issues.
What are some of the things you want parents to take away from this? After hearing some of their comments, some of them very emotional, especially after some of them may not have approved of the outcome. What do you want them to take away from this work tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing to take away is that everybody had an opportunity to participate in this. We sent out over 16,000 Parent Square messages informing people of what we were looking at. And they were also translated into different languages because we do have 78 languages from 72 countries here. The other thing is the fact that get ready to see a lot more communication from the school district about this, because now our job is to make certain that we contact each parent to let them know where we're moving forward, what school their son or daughter will be attending, the application process if they want to provide transportation and apply for a transfer, as well as their new school doing kind of introductions and orientations that we want to get done this school year before we get to next school year. We want these kids to be able to go to their new school, meet those teachers, meet their classmates, and start getting comfortable about your Perry Township school student.
How
Will
long
there
will you
ever
know
be-
before you get approved? Like if you file the application potentially in February?
We'd like to have it done by the 1st of March. So before we go to spring break, we would like to have all the application processes finished and the students know where they're attending, and then we'll start doing the open houses at those schools to invite the students who currently aren't there to come into those buildings.
Beginning of March.
Yes.
Would there ever be any chance that this could ever be undone? Say if we ever did figure out the bus routes, if ever we could bring choice back.
I think now we'll have an intra-district transfer policy that will remain in place, and I don't see us ever driving the miles that we currently do to do choice the way it's done has been done currently in Perry Township.
Are the boundaries already drawn, Mr. Mapes?
Yes.
Okay,
What's on the website is the boundaries that are approved. So those boundaries will be implemented.
11, right? Around
Okay.
11
Yeah.
elementary schools.
And then you guys had said about ironing out more details. What kind of are the steps from here that you're going to be looking at?
Sure. So first we'll work with our legal team to draft an application process and make certain that it is very clear and concise and has these priorities listed for current choice students. Our principals will start thinking of activities to have for open houses to introduce new students who will be going to their building in 23-24, as well as how to package information to send with students that won't be in their buildings next year. I think the other thing that we have to do now is we have to start routing and putting the students in those buildings and figure out where we're going to be transportation-wise as well. So it's a long process from this point forward. I know there were some people who were concerned about the timing of this process, but the bottom line is we needed a decision tonight, either for or against, because we have to move forward getting ready for the next school year. And I don't care if it's our elementaries or our middle school and high school. Christmas break for us, we start running two kind of semesters. The one we're going to be in and the one we're going to open up the next school year. So a lot of work to be done.
In that presentation that's on the website, it says 31% of students would be changing schools under this model. Is that first through fourth graders?
So K through 4, because when you move a grade level up, is what we're looking at as far as the students are concerned.
Do you know how many students that is? I know it's 30%, but is that like?
It was around 2,300 elementary students that would be impacted.
And can you clarify what the new boundaries will be? Will it be like people who live within 5 miles of the school, 10 miles of the school? How are you drawing those?
Actually, if you go to the website, you'll see the actual boundaries. I can't off the top of my head tell you the number of miles, but they're more defined by our major roads in the township, and that way we don't separate some neighborhoods. We've tried to do a good job of making clean lines as we set the boundaries.
The different priorities you mentioned, priority 1, priority 2 given to students tonight, does that also need to be approved by the school board?
Those administrative guidelines with the application will be brought to the board in January if our attorneys can get it done, turned around that amount of time.
So that's not a done deal.
The process itself,
process of the priorities.
that's what will be embedded in the application process. We've been given our marching orders with that vote tonight of what they want.
And again, the priority for existing choice students, if they're attending a school beyond their boundary, if they can be given transportation by their parents, they would be given priority. I think is it 2?
They'll be given, so first you'll take the kids who live in the boundary, and they'll be placed in those grade levels and sections. And then the number of occupancies we still have available, we will use those for the choice kids who are currently there. And then after that, if there's more availability, we'll look at outside the district transfers at that point.
But there's probably some kids that are there that don't live in that boundary. They'll have to fill out that application, and there still might not be enough slots, even if they're already there.
That is
And
correct.
they'll be chosen through a lottery then.
That's correct.
What is the point of implementing the plan if you still won't have substitute drivers? And if you're still lacking 15 drivers?
Well, we'll be able to reduce the number of students that we're getting home an hour late from school currently, and we'll be able to really be more efficient with how we load our buses. We have some buses right now that only have 25 to 30 students on them, and we'll be able to put a lot more students on the buses and be more efficient with our tax dollars.
And how often are students roughly an hour late getting home? Is it like once a week?
It's every
day?
night. It's every night. We had 24 routes tonight that were go-back routes, and usually we average somewhere between 19 and 25.
And that's since the beginning of the school year?
That's been since the beginning of the school year.
And what are our vacancy figures stand today for bus drivers?
We have 42 openings currently, and that includes sub-drivers.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Seem to suggest, hey, this is a comp. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. I apologize.